Well, well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the pilot episode of UK Outpost 31. It's my film review podcast and YouTube channel. This is my pilot episode, episode 1, and yes, this is a whole new thing. It's a whole nother level for film reviews. And yes, please share, like, subscribe, and jump along with us, because we got a lot going on. I'm your host, Dan Nostalgia. And film we're covering today, folks, 28 Days Later, released on the 1st of November 2002. Directed by Danny Boyle, starring Cillian Murphy, Naomi Harris, Brendan Gleeson, Megan Burns, Christopher Eccleston, Noah Huntley, and Ricky Harnett. And scores by John Murphy, and of course 20th Century, now under the ownership of Disney. Now, the film's concept really is a story of finding hope, one would say, in a world of chaos, violence, reflecting on the pupils of an ape. As we start the film, watching, sadly, from a point of view of an enslaved state, reinventing the zombie genre in a way, separating itself from the classic films from B-movies from past decades. Danny Boyle firmly lays out his grip on this subgenre in a way, and yeah, you can see how he had done that. It's a long way that he's taken this genre on this. The cinematography gives a setting of a disturbing outlook on the well, it's disturbing post-apocalyptic world, and how other city and towns could have been over-affected and overrun by this disease virus. Danny Boyle intended to grip the audience by the story compared to the character-driven films. Something different created from others, you find, and it's definitely an interesting review, definitely an interesting take, definitely an interesting spin. So I can see where he's going on that one. Of course, after first reading the script and wanting to immerse the audience with such a mystery, even the tagline 28 Days Later, particularly after the opening scene, I mean, it sets the trend, doesn't it? I mean, it's an amazing start to the film, and it gives off such high intensity and immerses you from the start. The score being very provocative, the guitar riff and the piano melody gave the scenes great intensity. Excellent piece of music, goes hand in hand and complements the film largely to Danny's visual, and it's amazing. And here on UK Outpost 31, we praise that a lot. We do, we highly do. Well, we know the film's title. It has comparisons to other films such as Sandra Bullock's 28 Days, which was 2 years released, but still at the same time there was a lot that happened in those 2 years. So yes, it was obviously people's going to be comparing that. Our main character Jim, as we start, is awakens in the hospital bed, and he's wandering around unaware of the world, in many ways resembling Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead character Rick Grimes, both having to adapt into their new surroundings and no resemblance of characteristics besides trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic world. These characters also have their own agenda for survival in life, with each character almost having the freedom with the circumstances. The origin of Mark and his family really did stand out in some ways. But we can also go down that rabbit hole later still. The unseen evacuation in the UK and how the horror unfolded. I would have loved to have seen that, wouldn't you guys? I mean, come on, couldn't you have pictured the whole city? I mean, I know we've seen zombie films and we've seen multiple things that genres and TV, Walking Dead, that could have covered this. So we've seen it in other works, but just to have seen it in a Danny Boyle visual just makes you want to see how that would have turned out, briefly. Radical alternative ending, which was interesting, because there was no soldiers in the film originally, and they would have been killed off screen with Frank being infected, knocking him unconscious, and the other two main characters, Jim and Selena, argue about the cure coming back to the facility from the opening scene of the film, which would have been a real comeback on that. The only survivor was locked in safety. Blood transfusion was needed to save Frank's life. Jim is the only suitable candidate. The man leaves the equipment around so they can do the transfusion, but of course things don't always go as smooth. They're attacked, and Frank survives. Now Jim is infected, laying on the table in the same state as the chimp was in the opening scene, with the overhead monitors displaying the acts of violence, and it's very unfortunate. There's a provocative notion. Well, welcome to Conspiracy Barbecue, where the man gets grilled. The plane that flew across the sky whilst Jim caught his breath. What did that mean for humanity outside of the British Isles? They say that New York and Paris was infected, but they never had much reports going off on that. So that was an interesting one. The provocative notion too. The scientists warned about disturbing the protesters. No. As far as being useful as the old Greyjoy getting hold of contraceptives after meeting Ramsay Bolton and having parts taken off him. That's how far as that message got with the protesters. And was there anything clandestine about the government sector, or was it a military benefactor back in this Cambridge Primates Research Centre? Why were they infected? Questions that create such various strains begin to differ, really. The red herring subplot, in a way. This is an inhabitor claiming that there was finding a cure, but cure to what? What was there to understand? And of course, my final provocative notion. What if Danny Boyle intended to bring 3 survivors back to include survivors from the sequel, the third film, and add new characters, and possibly give us maybe some fill in the blanks, because of is it going to be 28 months later? I know it's kind of 28 years later. It's going to be interesting to see what he does with that. I'm interested to know, because there is going to be some interesting things that come from this. I'm looking forward to this, and great to see how he tackles this what if situation. And yes, we can sit here and of course we can debate, we can talk about it in a non-toxic way and discuss where you would like to see the film go, I would like to see the film go, or in many ways where we want it to be. Yeah, we will get there. And Danny Boyle, and I'm sure, and his team are going to be working on many things. So wouldn't be surprised if you're going to hear something very soon. So yeah, if anything, folks, I'll keep your eyes posted on that one, because there's always something in the pipeline. UK Outpost 31 checks that crap non-stop and breaks it down. Okay. Now, doing some research into this, Danny Boyle, he had applied more than one occasion that intends to direct the third follow-up, as we just briefly spoken on. There's been talks and rumours for years, and it's found its way into the social circle of fans, including moi. And title names or mentions suggested 28 months later. I would run with that sounds reasonable. Almost a fitting name and a time distance between the events of the sequel, to a point, you could say. So it's a cliche, but it's a very good cliche. Come on, don't deny it here. Come on, talk to me, Goose. Yeah, and then you've got the chemistry between the main characters, Jim and Selena, the balance of knowledge and understanding about their world, this world that they live in, that they inhabited. It'd be interesting to see where they were previously. Before that, they said they had careers and jobs and so on, but their world was turned upside down from there. And it's amazing how they came so much and had to survive. And that's how it is. Very cruel, very non-compassionate. Much of the filming come from the small cameras I was researching, and they said they were placed and angled on such a less amount of time for shooting scenes. So there's certain areas where you see briefly shooting off Cillian Murphy as he's walking across that bridge, looking into wilderness. Uh, that was clever. I love Danny Bolt. I mean, he's made some good stuff, but this was good ingenuity. This is clever. He carries it well. He's doing it, and he's got it that way. Those cameras are working perfect to how he's got the shots and covers the angles. I mean, he got it there. Bridge scenes, as we know, involving Cillian Murphy was shot during the early hours of the weekends with plenty of editing. We know that there was traffic marshals and possible police presence at certain times at certain streets around London, which obviously for such filming and for such a scene you're trying to create, you need that eeriness, that silence, that you need that crisp. You need to hear it. You need to hear the atmosphere in a nonsensical way. I'm not sure if I'm getting through to you there. But yes, as we know, the main character's awakening from a coma in the hospital, and he's wandering around helplessly, defining, as we spoke, a resemblance between 28 Days Later main character Jim and the Walking Dead main character Rick Grimes. Kirkman and I'm sure Boyle, almost in a league, nearly 10 years later, both developing leadership qualities respectively and developing into something, and both starting from the same origin, a hospital, not knowing what's going on, and then find himself in the world where your food, you're on the menu. That's how it goes. Chop and change, they ain't cooking you, they're just straight eating you. But Jim and Rick find themselves in this situation. This is how in many ways we can compare this. Walking Dead almost being either a follow-on to in America. You could find connections if you see such resemblance. We know the alternative ending had something special or something different, unfortunate for fate, in line for Jim, which would have seen him being turned into one of the infected, which would have been a sad ending, really, considering of he woke up in the hospital and then found himself back on a bed, but this time not himself. The Dogma specialist, Doc Mando, they do say that gives a realistic camera work, extreme characters of all forms of motives for the future with a take on zombie horror. Surgeon infected, attacks from far to up close, disturbing thought to the pace, terror from all angles. That was Film Magazine 2003. Amazing stuff. I love it. Yes, I love the up close camera work. Yeah, the film score said it's provocative vibe. That piano riff, it's a classic theme. It gives the various scenes great intensity, and I love that. The film's poster, there's various posters, but consisting of a red blood themed, with a daunting set of eyes staring back, blended with a Banksy-esque image of London, which I think this was pre-Banksy maybe, but this was definitely something that would have fallen in his ballpark. It is amazing. There's various posters. I'm going to look at buy the poster myself so I can have them framed. Would be nice if you can possibly, if I could read some of the stars, get it signed. Another story, another day. Of course, having the City of London to yourself is having it closed for 2 hours. The agreement reached, of course, filming privileges on the M6 areas of Birmingham and Manchester, obtaining the central landmark areas, and in total silence. Well, you know, it was you have to be in total silence, and how much money and how they had to win over many local councils, in the UK, to push to get that through. Interesting, no? I would have loved to have been for that meeting. The unseen evacuation of the country intrigued me, and how the horror unfolded in panic. Only the newspapers and missing people leaflets posted on the walls, that was interesting. I mean, I love that. To me, that was like, that fits the bill. The film becoming a success, a huge success, and receiving much critical acclaim. and holding its own against many heavyweights and blockbusters in 2002 also. So I was definitely there for the taking. Well, it began into saying there was a realistic spoken enhanced dialogue from actors, behavioural pattern exception of the survival mind, with inclusion of strengths or flaws. The script partly writes like the 1984's apocalyptic comedy Night of the Comet, where the directors asked the question, what would you, if there was only a few of you left, in order to grasp the feel of that survival mindset and potential power at your disposal? How would you deal with it? There's many ways, of course. It kind of falls into that pattern. What would you do if there was only you left on this earth with a handful of people, with the dangers, and how would you survive? You can go and do what you wanted to at a point until you come across danger, and you're going to find yourself in situations where it's a struggle. You know, you're coming off like Hicks and Aliens, and before you know, you're raging and shooting. If you want to compare, I was reading about the Variety, along with other media sources, reported Cillian Murphy interview, and he's been asking for Alex Garland and Danny Boyle about the third instalment and wants to know what's happening with the script. That's what I've been reading, and multiple sources say that I would love to know too what's going on with it. And obviously then you look at the most influential zombie films of all time, what influenced the zombie films. You go back to The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari in 1920, Frankenstein in 1931, White Zombies in 1932, White Zombie, I Walked with a Zombie in 43, Night of the Living Dead in 58, and of course you got Dawn of the Dead, where you come into Romero Turf in 78, Zombie 79, The Evil Dead in 81. This is where we get into Raimi Turf, and then you've got the Dead Alive in 92, and then we fall in 28 days later. When you look at the film quotes on some of these, it's beautiful. I love that. A soldier brags to his colleague, as we know as Mitchell, killing about when the oncoming infected. That was when they were sat down eating dinner and there was an outbreak. And Mitchell's response after that was, no. What do you want, a fucking sweetie? Keep shooting you. Yeah, but that was beautiful. What do you want, a sweetie? Yeah, beautiful that was to me. And the good thing is that the bit of trivia here, obviously, is the lower mythology of the undead walking around. Obviously, we know what comes from Indian Haitian tradition, traced through African sorcery, also known as voodoo. It's reanimating, reviving corpses, and obviously Pirates of the Caribbean touched on this. Hey, what didn't they touch on? The film grossed over 85 million on an 8 million budget with a sequel 28 weeks later with 65 million, grossing 65, and on a 15 million budget. Alex Garland and is also responsible for the genre-based film Ex Machina and Dread. Dread itself was some amazing film, and they've been working on a script for the last 15 years or so. So they say, but I would love to know what's going on. Tell us, guys, please. Let me know. The statue scene was covered in the scaffolding bars, was used by billboards to cover the work. Originally it was meant for something else, but it fell in line perfect. University students with glamorous look were brought in as marshals to handle modern traffic, heading to work at that hour, managing to keep the motorists calm. Danny Boyle's daughter himself spearheading the task with glamorous friends from university. He was once asked to direct a James Bond film. Never come to fruition. It's a shame. I would love to see what Danny Boyle could have done with the James Bond material. Cillian Murphy, I think, would have been great for it. As we know, Cillian Murphy he played Dr. Crane or Scarecrow in Nolan's Batman Begins in 2008, and both appeared in Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. This is amazing stuff. And Cillian Murphy, he's just on another level when it comes to acting. Let's not get beat around the bush. He also auditioned to play Bruce Wayne, and at the same time as Bale did, and lost out, but Nolan liked his commitment and how he could come across and offered him the role. I watched that footage, and yeah, if Bale hadn't gone for it, maybe Murphy could have nailed it. Maybe. Eccleston, as we know, mostly for his part in Doctor Who, and alongside Billy Piper, who was big in Diaries of a Call Girl. Enough said, LOL. Naomi Harris exploding on the scene even more, with a dynamic take with the Bond Smith receptionist Eve Moneypenny, as we know, and Sky Falls and No Time to Die with Daniel Craig. Should be linked with Marvel as of recently. And talking of Marvel, two of the casting worked on Marvel projects. Eccleston played Malekith in Marvel Studios' Thor: The Dark World in 2014, and Naomi Harris played Shriek in Sony's Venom: Let There Be Carnage a couple of years ago. And of course, Cillian Murphy brings much life to many characters, in particular the iconic Thomas Shelby in BBC's Peaky Blinders, becoming one of the most popular characters in TV and character in the last 10 years. Hands down, stapling his name firmly amongst the top tier actors. Take a bow, accept the applause, you are the man. As we know, Ricky Hanna, who played Mitchell, also was known for his portrayal as Carlton Leach. First time I come across this actor in Rise of the Foot Soldiers anthology. Only the first. I'm a big fan of the others, but I like the first one. And then you've got the Nolan and Murphy connection, collaborating on multiple projects such as Inception, Sunshine, Dunkirk, as well as the Dark Knight trilogy. And the Dark Knight trilogy is another level. Naomi Harris lending her vocals to Microsoft video games like Fable 3. Big money on that one, Garby. Big film features from Cillian Murphy, like I said, Inception, Sunshine, Red Eye, A Quiet Place, Dunkirk, Free Fire. I love that film. Loved it. Transcendent, which wasn't too bad. Dark Knight trilogies, Tron Legacy. And of course, then you've got film features too from Naomi Harris, such as Moonlight, Spectre, No Time to Die, Venom: Let There Be Carnage, Black and Blue, Mowgli, Rampage, Mandela, Street Kings, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Miami Vice. Yes, some big films there, gotta be honest, and big films now from Brendan Gleeson, as we know, as in Bruges, Harry Potter anthology, In the Heart of the Sea. Love that film with Chris Hemsworth. Troy, big. Mission Impossible 2, Gangs of New York, Lake Placid. Love these films. Edge of Tomorrow, Open on Disc, Kingdom Heaven, yep. Safe House, yep. Village, yep. Assassins, Creed, Beowulf, and Green Zone. But I did love Green Zone before he made that part his own. There's again that origin story when he said about the spread of the virus and it went public and everyone rushed to the airports with the same idea of trying to buy their ticket and go and buy himself out of the country. And of course the infected turned up, and before you know it, there was bloodshed, and family, friends, and so forth found themselves separated, and much changed. After the terror strikes, all hope died shortly after that, leaving Mark as the only survivor, as he explained his origin story after Jim tried to sit on the fact that his family had it worse, but Mark just happened to have a more sadder story, which you wouldn't have wanted to have gone it down, wanted to have seen your family go it that way. So it was unfair. It was unfair for that character. Sorry if I sound a bit nasally, folks. Been dealing with a blocked nose and cold as of late. But of course, it's the pod episodes. We are in January 2023, and I'm your host, Dan Nostalgia, and you are here with UK Outpost 31, and this is our film review of 28 Days Later. And this is how it is. So we've been covering this, and there's been a lot we've been covering through, and then we're still covering through this. And I mean, there's a lot we can talk about. I mean, there is a lot, and there's heavily so much you can do with this. I mean, you look at Danny Boyle's career, I mean, and his credits today as a director, producer, executive producer. He's made Shallow Grave, Sunshine, The Beach, Trainspotting, T2, Trainspotting, Steve Jobs, 127 Hours, Yesterday, Trance, Slumdog Millionaire, Battle of the Sexes. You know what I mean? This man has made film after film and still continues to make film after film. And you know what? This film scored so big, it hit 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. And you can't deny this film really does hold. This film holds a lot. This film reinvented the genre of zombies before The Walking Dead and before anything before that. Up until then, there had been many things that had changed. And yes, of course, Danny Boyle helped bring it back. And he brought it back over here in the UK. And yes, he made it big again. I gotta be honest, I can't deny what he did. I mean, I look at some of the scenes and I'm thinking, man, this guy just he brought terror on that screen, and that's how it came across. His intention was to have that look, that look of rage, that look of fear in the eyes of the non-infected, and how that transcended on screen, and the picturesque of the visual with the score that sits just over the top of the plastic layer, and how it gives it that something. You know what I mean? I think that with this film. Now, I mean, I'm talking to you folks. Doesn't matter if you're over in the States, you're in China, if you're in Colombia, if you're out in Romania, if you're out in Germany, if you're out in Ireland. Like this video. Follow me. Follow me on YouTube. And stay posted for all more further content that I do have planned in the pipeline. But you can understand, this film really did bring some grandeur to the genre. You can't argue facts with that. That's just how it is. Danny Boyle, take a blame on yourself, take a blame. Well, this is where we get into my take. To be honest with you, an amazing film, a true masterpiece in cinematography. In genre of horror drama, Danny Boyle's continued to churn out and deliver prestigious films with an impressive and directing career. Types of zombies infected definitely gives off a certain chills, terrors, the stares of dead pupils, and the pace in which it can travel in numbers is frightening. The film lends prolifically to the American, Italian zombie catalogue of when you're thinking of Romero, Dario Argento, and there's definitely a greatness to how he's adapted that. He's brought it to the UK in such a way. It's engineered under a blanket of extreme terror and great cast of characters. Felt the story needed maybe a little more information from the government or a scientific point of view, leaving little facts about the infected or the virus strings, creating or the creators. And the soldiers were the closest we got to authority figures. We came to leadership or government, yet not an exact explanation. To be honest, not every story needs explaining. That's the truth. The vague rundown from Selena, being the version of events, first impression of the main character Jim. I thought, being useless through the first 2 acts of the film, I gotta be honest, I found finding Selena Frank more mentally equipped to deal with the apocalyptic surroundings. All that's down to the fact that he had just woke up from a coma. And of course, he's not going to be as sharp as a Ginsu about it when he's awake. No, it's going to take him a bit of time to understand. But coming into the third act, I finally found his own, and I found him to be the alpha male, considering that he didn't quite start off as that. He was the beta or further down, but he held his own. And, until he finally comes into his own, the state of the world, finding that edge, which he did, and finds it well. Hannah being a standard character played by Megan Burns, showing intelligence and understanding in a numbed loss of emotion. Because you think about it, she didn't 100% come across as your calm, but I'm not optimistic. You know what I mean? So skeptic maybe. Besides the dramatic start, the second act slightly loses a little bit of steam. That, you know, we may be thankful I could find somewhere. Dipping off, but eventually, it builds back up into the blood curdling the finale. Great city backdrop of London. Some views at the M6 motorway, and maybe little parts of Manchester, areas of Manchester. Still, this is a classic. It fully deserves all the praises and standing ovations it gets for what it does for the genre. And where 9 out of 10 zombie films often can fall into the same category, same cliche characteristics, subplots, overall action stories, this one separates itself, and that's different. And this, to me, this is where which is overlooked, but most of them overlooked. But this is the standout. This is not the same. Over time, this has become a cult classic themselves in their own right, same as the others, as I've spoken on in some ways. 28 Days Later isn't the most perfect film and does have its flaws, but in general, this delivers on different levels. Spoon-fed gore. This is chocolate dessert cake to any Bruce Bogtrotters, my friend. A real treat for horror buffs. One of them that shines truly in one colour. Red, my friend. So, if you're asking me what I'm going to give this out of 5, I'm giving this 5. Johnny 5, my friend. Johnny 5 is alive, okay? That's what I'm giving this. Just to end, really, just to finish up on a note, I would like to say thank you for listening to my channel. I've been your host, and I would like to think that I've entertained you, even though I've been slightly under the weather. My name is Dan Nostalgia, and of course, we've been here in the cold depths, the UK Outpost 31. And I'm hoping you've enjoyed yourself. So please like, please subscribe, please share, please tell your friends, please come back, leave a comment. Don't hesitate to say hello. And just remember, we're always a friendly crew. But just remember, don't imitate. So, I would like to say thank you, wish you the best of days to you all, and wish every one of you the best you can be. You can be the best, and I'm wishing that for you. Thank you, and have a good day. From the team, UK Outpost 31. Goodbye.